What is the comfort zone? Well, if you relate it to weather, uh, in the winter, we all tend to complain about it being cold outside, so we're uncomfortable. And in the summer, it's really hot outside, and we complain because it's too hot and we're uncomfortable. So when things are uncomfortable, it makes us feel a certain way. It makes either mentally or physically. I talk a lot about my opinions on what musicians should or shouldn't do to be professional. And you know what? Just do whatever you want. But whatever you do is going to have certain results. Okay, so depending on what you want the results to be of your efforts or lack of efforts is what your results are going to be. So the comfort zone is so when we're talking about music specifically, most of us musicians will talk that they want things to be better than they are. They want to play bigger gigs. They want to have if they're relying on that as an income, they want bigger money and these kind of things, and feeling like they're up against the wall and that there's no way forward, and so they're just accepting of how things are, and so then they're not really trying to figure out other ways around that. So now they're just in this comfort zone of like, well, I've done all this work and I've reached this certain level, and I'm more or less satisfied with that, so I'm comfortable in how I'm feeling. uh Thomas says, just don't take an album cover photo in someone's backyard with dog do in the pic. Yeah, that's one of my don'ts that I've mentioned a few times about not doing that. It's not very professional. So do you just become satisfied? Are you happy with your situation? You're comfortable with the way things are? Or do you want things to be bigger or better, or do you have other dreams that you're trying to achieve, but you have this fear or anxiety of taking those, what you might think are risks, reaching out to certain people to find out information or to make connections with people? I wrote down connecting with people and networking, and not just people who are on your same level, but with people who are already doing what you want to be doing, and connecting with them, becoming friends with them without the expectation that they're going to do something for you, at least not initially. um, it's interesting. I've watched over the last 10 years how many of people I know became realtors, and they're selling houses, and it was just seemed like there was this big influx of realtors. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be a realtor, but I don't know what was happening in the market to uh, seem like there's a demand to have that many realtors around. But when I know that many realtors, there's this. I've noticed this pressure of sales being around them, that they put their hand on my shoulder and they're like, "Hey, bro, when you're getting ready to buy a house, let me know, because I'm gonna make a really good deal for you. Okay, you're gonna get a great deal." And I think it's the same with car salesmen too. When I meet somebody that's working at a dealership or a used car dealership, come to me. I'm gonna help you out. Bart, Bartski, Barteroni. I talked to Bart last night, and the first I do this with most people I talk to on the phone. It's get all the silly ridiculousness stuff out of the way first, and I will milk that for all it's worth. And I got on the phone with Bart. I actually had a serious question for him, but it all started with like, "Hey Bart Rock, hey Bartski, Barteroli, Bart this." I was like, "Bart, I'm trying to think about how many nicknames I can come up with for you in the next 30 seconds." And then he relates them to me that he's had along his journey, and some of them from being younger. And man, they were hilarious. It was good stuff. So, Bart, I'm glad you're here. Bart, I just talked about the deck show. I think you might have a pretty big audience today on deck, which is going to be great. Great stuff. All right, what was I talking about? Realtors and car salesmen and things like that. The other side of that coin is the assuming that goes along. Well, I know Joe over at Bronco Motors or whatever. I'm just making that up, by the way. I don't know who Joe is at Bronco Motors, but um, to become friends with somebody because I think that they can do something for me is not the right approach. Not the right approach at all. Um, I think it's the same in anything that you do is when you become familiar with somebody, excuse me, and you become friends with them. And actually, Bart and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. It seems like the drumming community is a has a lot different dynamic than guitar players who hang out with each other or singers or something like that. It seems like we as drummers are we have this connection because everything is rhythm. And if you ever read Bart's book, The Rhythmic Journey, he talks in depth about how everything is rhythm. And so there's this, I think there's this, what's the word I'm looking for? This really great connection amongst us as drummers. Not saying that you other musicians can't participate in the love and camaraderie, but there just it seems like there's a more special connection amongst drummers, and maybe that's just because that's the world I live in. But when you become friends with drummers, this networking thing that not only I talk about, but a lot of people talk about, is where those paths lead. For instance, um, I'm probably coming up on 2 years ago since I met Bart, and it was through Drummers Education Connection. I think I just randomly stumbled upon the show on YouTube because I recognized Chip Ritter from Chip Ritter being on the David Letterman show. Uh, I recognized him instantly, and so that caught my attention. I started watching, and here's these drummers hanging out, and it was really cool. And so I started following these guys, Bart and Chip and Jeremy and Rick, following them on Facebook, becoming friends with them, and because Bart was doing these live videos from the road where he was teaching from the road, and I was on the road too while he was teaching, and that caught my attention. I'm like, I'm here sitting in my hotel room not really doing anything. I could have my computer, I could be doing these lessons and not rearranging my schedule so much. And so I reached out to Bart and said, hey, I'm really interested in this, can you give me more information? I wasn't like, I wonder if I become friends with Bart what he can do for me. It wasn't like I wasn't I just he was doing something that was very specific to my situation. I thought, oh, and just reaching out and connecting with that, becoming friends with him. I see that my buddy James Harrison just popped up online. I'll read your comment in a second. But when I was in high school, the band Redstone was a pretty big deal around Boise. They were being played on the radio. I know that they did touring and things like that. I didn't know James. I knew of the band, but I knew Rob Failer, who taught guitar lessons in American Music, the store that I would frequent. And because I was an acquaintance of Rob, whenever I'd see Redstone play something that I could go to, James was there with this drum set with this drum rack. And it was a red drum set. I don't remember what brand of drums. I think it might have been Yamaha. James, if I'm wrong, you could correct me. But I'd never seen anybody in person have a drum set like this except by looking in Modern Drummer magazine. And it really blew me away. I was like, that is so cool. And I didn't know James. But you know what? I went up and introduced myself to James. I was a nerdy high school kid. But that's how I met James. I just took that chance at a Premier drum set. And reached out to James, and over time, me running into James and seeing the band play, I slowly became friends with James. And now James is a really great friend, and he's been a really cool mentor to me in so many ways, and I really appreciate that. So that's kind of part of that networking thing. But how does that now? I don't know if I am predisposed to not being afraid to reach out to people. Um, there are times certain people I get a little nervous to reach out to, and but once you start talking to these people, whether it's on the phone or like a Zoom call or something like that, you immediately at ease because you're just like, oh, this is just another person, and we're talking and hanging out and exchanging information and getting to know each other. So James's comment about realtors, oh, the supply and demand. Boise is a high demand area. Money to be made when the market goes down. Many will find a new career. Yep, for sure. And I've seen that. So, like I mentioned, this big influx of realtors, and they're all going to be millionaires, right? Just like all the musicians I know, including me, are going to be millionaires. um, yeah, and I see, some of them it really works out, and some of them not so much. I think that there's this, and it's not just realtors. I think there's a personality that goes along with anything that people do for a career. um, People who are in banking or those kind of jobs, or landscaping, which I'm well versed in, and being around construction people, and then being around musicians, and there's always a personality that's attached with that. I think some people get into real being a realtor, and maybe they don't have the personality to be a realtor. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So, going back to the comfort zone is, I've never really been scared to just reach out to people and introduce myself and say, hey, how's it going? Um, it's so I use Bart as an example of that, and the friendship that's developed not just with Bart, but with Chip and with Rick Sojak and with Jeremy Steinkohler. All of those guys over the last 2 years have become really great friends, and it's great to just call them up on the phone, and you don't even have to talk shop. Just, hey, how's your day going? And Chip's really, really good about doing that. And you ask any of those other guys, um, and it's not just those guys. I think Chip does this with a lot of his friends. He just calls up and says, hey, I'm just checking in on you. How's your day going? It's so cool. So cool to have that kind of relationship with somebody. So the comfort zone, I don't know if this saying that I'm going to say is if I came up with it or I heard it from somebody, but I like to say that because when you're teaching drum lessons, as I do, it's not just teaching drums. It's there's a lot of life involved with drumming and your day-to-day stuff, and I have a certain percentage of drum students who are trying to achieve certain things, and in order to do those certain things, it makes them uncomfortable because they're going to have to do something they're not used to doing. And so I always tell them, I said, the more you can get out of your comfort zone, the larger your comfort zone becomes. Like, you got this little, and you get out and you get out and get out, and you start realizing, hey, it's not such a big deal to take these what you might consider risks or things that make you nervous to do. And so you get in the habit of reaching out to people and taking those steps that's necessary to move your career along. And that's not just in music, that's in anything that you do, is just reaching out and getting to know people and moving forward with that. So what does it take to move forward? Thomas says learning how to play the drums and play the drums in front of someone you don't really know is a little uncomfortable at first. It is. Mary says, I'm pretty sure Matt told you that. I'm not sure, Mary, if that's the case. I feel like I've been saying that even before, but you might be right. The producer is generally correct about everything. So, yeah, I could credit Matt, I suppose. but it's something that's in my head a lot, and I relay that to students. So, yeah, playing in front of people can be really uncomfortable. I know people that have played a lot of shows who still get nervous to perform. Um, I don't get nervous to perform. I've played a lot lot of shows, a lot of gigs, so the actual performance part of it doesn't bother me at all. There's situational things. Sometimes I worry more about where I'm going to park. That makes me more uncomfortable than actually doing the gig. It's like, oh, where can I park? Side note, venue, places. It sure be great if you had some kind of designated parking for musicians to make it easy to get in and out of your establishment. Now, if you're playing arenas and things like that, usually the parking thing is much better than playing at a bar in downtown wherever. Downtown wherever, any city, the parking can be a challenge. So that's a little side note. I get more anxiety about where I'm going to park than playing the gig itself. Uh, so, what does it take to move forward to get out of this comfort zone? Like, you can have thoughts and ideas, but if you don't do anything, they just dis- they disappear. Um, I've I've been in a pretty good habit most of the time if I had thoughts and ideas to just write them down. And so I physically use pen and paper and I'll write down what my ideas are. I like that a lot better than just making a note in my phone on these certain things. I don't know. I think there's an attachment to physically writing stuff out. So you have ideas and thoughts; those need to be put down on paper, and then making a plan. Like, what's the next step? What am I going to do with these thoughts and I? Excuse me, I got the hiccups. What are you going to do with these thoughts and actions? Yikes! The steakhouse during Christmas light season. Yeah, yes. Mary is talking about Indian Creek Steakhouse in Caldwell, and the whole downtown Caldwell area is very nice now. Um, but one one gig I played there with Cliff, I had to park down by the police station, which is like a good 5 blocks away, and thankfully I had my my rolling cart, and I was able to do that in like I think I made 3 trips, but it was better than being a pack mule. Anyway, yes. Taking those thoughts and ideas and creating a plan, taking action, and then forgetting about what the results are going to be of those actions, because I think I really do believe that if you have these thoughts and ideas and you make a plan and you take action, the results are generally going to be what you hope they are, but not to start just dwelling on like, well, what if what if it doesn't, what if it this, what if it blah 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 blah. So this might feel like it's leaning towards New Year's resolution type things, and I don't want the show to turn into that. Um, I could say that for save that for 2 weeks from today. Um, but well, here's an example of a thought, an idea, and a plan and an action, and then forgetting about what the results might be. The band Primus put out, I think it was like mid-November ish, that their drummer had left the band, and his name escapes me right at this very second. It'll probably just pop into my head randomly. Tim Alexander. There it is. Tim had left the band, and that they were going to uh, search the internet for who could possibly be their new drummer. And so when that happened, I got tagged in that post by a handful of people. And then I had a handful of people actually just call me or text me and say, hey, did you hear that Primus is looking for a new drummer? No, I was not aware until I was tagged in that post. And I followed those instructions on what to do. And I sent my stuff in. I was already prepared for such a situation. My website's up to date. I've got recent videos of me playing drums. Uh, recent enough because I broke my leg in August. But at any rate, so the most recent stuff of me playing, which I think is very relevant, and a short little bio on myself. And I took the action, I put it out there, and not worry about the results. I don't want to get too far down, like zeroing in on what I think Primus may or may not be doing with that. This could just be a publicity thing, and chances are that that's exactly what the case is, because that's what so many bands have done, where they put out this cattle call for drummers, and they get a lot of interest in the band suddenly because of this situation. And because I know so many people on the other side of the fence from me, and it's more or less, I think that they probably have already decided who their drummer is, and they're going to ride this wave. I could be wrong, but I'm not holding my breath. Oh, they're going to call. They're not to just. It's like when you buy a lottery ticket, and you buy this lottery ticket and you see the numbers for the Powerball, and you could picture those numbers on the screen at the drawing on the news. Oh, 3. Oh, I got 21, 37, 48, You're like, oh, I could hear that being called. And then you just dream about winning the lottery. I think some people have done that with Primus. They're like, oh, I'm the guy. I've seen some audition videos out there for Primus from drummers that just completely run circles around me. And that's okay. They might not be the best drummer for Primus either. Controversy creates cash. I wasn't keeping up with the comments. I'm sorry, people. Let's see. What am I missing? Steakhouse, blah, blah, blah. None of the ones I've played have loading zones. Yeah. Okay, talking about parking. The anxiety of parking. Okay, so I didn't turn in my thing for Primus, and then I've been dwelling on it every day since then. I just put it out there. I did what they asked me to do, and that's the end of it. I'm not harassing them, sending an email every other day. Hey, I'm really your guy, I promise. I send them my audition materials, and if it fits the criteria of what they're looking for, great. Then whatever comes of that will come of it. I don't even know. I can't even imagine what that may or may not be. So I was thinking about this comfort zone idea quite a bit, especially over the last few weeks. The Primus situation controversy. Yeah, for one thing for sure, with what James is saying, it's got people talking. It's got people talking about the band. And, I would just be guessing at how many drummers are working on turning stuff in. And I don't know how long they're going to allow people to turn stuff in. But I see more and more YouTube suggested videos when I get on YouTube of somebody somewhere in the world has done a video of them playing Primus songs. Which is interesting because, not to get too sidetracked on the Primus thing, but their original post was pretty specific. They didn't say, we want to see you play a video of you playing our songs. They said, we want to see the most recent video of you playing. That they weren't interested necessarily in your chops. They were interested in, could you fit in with the band, and are you able to create drum parts that are interesting or that fit with the band? But most importantly, they were like looking for somebody they could hang with. Do you have the personality to hang out with us? And they said, we don't want people who are drama people in the band. And so I think that I would be age appropriate for one to be in the band. And could I play those songs? Yeah. Could I play them exactly like I think they've had 3 drummers. Could I play them exactly how they played them? Probably not. Close, probably close enough that would work with the band because every drummer has a unique personality. Even Tim Alexander said, like, the drummer before him, he didn't play those songs exactly like. I can't think of who the other drummers are off the top of my head, or were. Um, and then Primus posted again recently within the last week. They said, "Hey, we've had all these submissions, and we appreciate people playing our songs, but we're not interested in seeing you play our songs. We're interested in seeing what you can do on your own. We want to just hear you play drums." And this point that they made twice now seems to be completely overlooked. Speaking of people named Alexander, here's Scotty. Yeah, exactly, Scott. Scott says, and they said specifically not looking for a clone. Exactly. So I think this is a good example, drummer friends, musician friends. If if you have an opportunity that's going to come along for you to play with a band that's at that level, that's still my number one goal. That's still my number one goal. Is I just have this itch to scratch. If you want to boil it down to that, where I'd love to be on tour with a big name act. Okay. Now, there's all other things that are attached to that, but in the circle of networking, in the circle, give those people what they ask for. Just like Scott said, they specifically said we're not looking for a clone. They also specifically said in their second post, it's awesome to see you guys all playing our songs, but we're more interested in what you have to bring to the table. That's what they're looking for. If indeed this is a legitimate internet search for a drummer, which it could be, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't know. I've been part of these things with other bands before. And there was one, when I first got involved with this, I got my hopes up really high. I'm like, there's no way they're going to pass on me, bro. I'm a really good drummer and I'm fun to be around. Guess what? They picked somebody else. They picked somebody that was already in the temporary drummer position. But that's just the way it goes. So if you don't do the work, you can't be prepared. So I was prepared to put my audition materials in there. So I think that's enough about Primus. Yeah, I did my part. So if they call me, if there's a next step to this and it works out, great. If it doesn't, I'm fine with that too. I'm just doing my part. Just doing my part. So coming back to yes, James. James said, wasn't the other drummer called Brain? Yeah, I don't know if he was the original drummer or I don't know the order. I'm pretty sure Tim Alexander is the third drummer in the lineup, if I'm correct, which I believe that I am, but I could be wrong. But yes, Brain was the name of one of the drummers. So there you go on that. So the comfort zone thing. So the past little over 4 months, I've been pretty limited in what I can do physically, but I started putting plans together for other things. And I could say right at this moment, with how things are going in my life with teaching and recording and playing gigs with the people I play gigs with, that I'm pretty comfortable. Like I could ride this wave for the next 10 years. But do I really want that? Or can I keep doing things that make what I'm doing better? So without being really specific, I was like, how can I expand my teaching business? How can I, recently I got this thing that said congratulations to Fred Rock School of Drumming about being one of the best music teachers in Boise. And that was a result of like online reviews and things that were put together based on that. And then another was this community votes thing that's online. And I don't know how uh, big these things are or if it's really a big deal. I don't really know. But, this kind of best of Boise thing, I think there's several versions of that. And again, I was brought up as one of the best drum or best music teachers in town, which is it's cool to have somebody say that about you. Um, I'm just trying to do the best I can with the resources I have, and in my mind, what I think makes a good drum teacher. So I just keep doing that. Uh, but how can I be better at what I do already? And so I'm looking at those kind of options. Um, and as a result of that, be in a better financial um, situation. James says Tim was there twice. Yeah, I read or watched a article or read something about that. I don't. It might have been a video I watched, James, about Tim. Tim had been in the band and then out of the band and then back in the band. Uh, so for whatever reasons those are, yes, you're correct. So for me, I was feeling like I'm really comfortable with my teaching situation. I feel like I really have that dialed in, and then, prior to breaking my leg, I wasn't thinking about some of the stuff that I am now. So Mary had told me sometimes I give away too much information, and like I need to hold my cards closer to my chest. So I'm going to try to do that, but I want to figure out a way how I can expand my teaching business. Like what are opportunities out there that I'm missing that I'm not thinking of? Like what can I do to be better, more accessible, a larger audience, things like that. The other was how do I expand my recording business, like me tracking drums for people. Um, and one person that I saw online recently, I've been friends with him on Facebook for a couple of years, is Blair Senta. Blair Senta is a drummer in Los Angeles. Blair played drums for Melissa Etheridge. He played drums for Alanis Morissette, played drums for Chris Cornell. And he's got a long list of people he's played with, very well-known people, and he does a lot of remote tracking, from his home studio. And a lot of things that he does is very, very similar to the setup I have here. And lately on Instagram, he's been making these posts about growing your remote tracking business. And so that really got my attention, him doing these videos and talking about that. So I started messaging Blair and introduced myself. And this is one of those get out of your comfort zone situations. But I also said earlier that I think it's something in me that I'm not really afraid to reach out to people. And I've been doing it more and more and more over the years. So to me, it's not like, it's just the next logical step. Like, here's a guy that's doing this. He's having a lot of success doing it. Does he have any information that he could pass along? And so I was just messaging back and forth, and I said, man, it'd be great if I could just talk to you on the phone. Is there a possibility about that? And he's like, oh, yeah, definitely. And he sent me some kind of calendar program where I could just pick a day and time, and we would have a Zoom call. It was so seamless and easy. I was like, oh, yeah, we can have a conversation. I took the step out and said, can we do this? The answer was yes. And so I talked to him yesterday and kind of gave him a virtual tour of the studio and a quick rundown of what I do, what I'm using, and some of the people that I've been working with. And he said, wow, you really got stuff dialed in. You're doing all the right things. You're doing great. You got the right room. And he said that his mentoring that he does, or his coaching, is really more specific to the engineering side on how to record drums, how to get these kind of sounds. And he said, it sounds like you already have that figured out, especially based on some of the recordings I sent him. And he said, as far as marketing goes, he's like, you probably need to talk to somebody else about that. But he felt I was already doing the right things. But the result of that is now I have this connection with Blair, and he's like, yeah, man, hit me up anytime we need to talk or got questions about whatever. So that was pretty cool. Pretty cool. But it was just one of those situations where I was like, I want to expand uh, doing this recording stuff more and more and more. One thing that he told me, and this is good information, he said, I looked at your Instagram posts, and there's not a lot of you actually playing the drums. You're making posts, you're doing this, and it's just a picture, but there's, and I said, well, I haven't really had an opportunity to put anything new together because I broke my leg and told him the quick story of that. He's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Well, once you're back to where you can swing the bat, then get those going. So that was good information to find out, because you just put those things out there and you can catch people's attention. So I reshared a short 1-minute clip of me playing an Alice in Chains song in here, and so that got a little spike of attention, putting that back out there. Thomas says, have you ever thought about making your own teaching book? Yes, Thomas, I have, and I've actually begun to do so. I put quite a few pages together. It's been a while, and I felt like the idea of what I was writing has been there and done that by so many drum book authors already. It was like, well, this isn't really unique. So I was starting to reevaluate what that was. And again, I'd start writing these ideas down. I have another notebook where I've actually started charting out different exercises and ideas and things like that. And so I'm collecting more and more and more pieces of ideas to, yes, hopefully put together my own teaching book. At the very least, my students could buy the book. There's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of choices when it comes to method books and drum teaching books out there. So I think it's a long road, and it takes a long time to put something together. But yes, I am working on that as another option of something to do, which is great. And I mean, without getting too horribly deep, because I seem to repeat a bunch of information, is I've got a stack of books that I frequently use for students. Depending on what the goal of the student is, I might use this book or that book or the other. And I feel like I really like this from that book and this from that book and this from that book. But sometimes there's like a gap in ideas from this to that. And so where that gap exists, at least in my opinion, I'm coming up with something that bridges that gap. So I write that down, and I think this would be cool to add to like a Fred Rock drum book. So yeah, yes, networking and having other professionals in your back pocket with anything is great. Yeah, for sure, Thomas. It doesn't matter what profession we are in. It's really, really good to have those other professionals that you can rely on. I've said a couple times already in this last hour that I've never really had this problem of reaching out to somebody I don't know, because always in the back of my head I'm like, what are they gonna say? Beat it, I'm not interested in talking to you. That's never ever happened. Never happened. Well, I can't say that it never happened. I've reached out to people and never got a response. So there's that, but I can't control if they're going to respond or not. If they didn't respond now, I just leave it alone. And maybe reach out again, later. And if I don't get a response again, I'm like, okay, well, they're too busy or what have you. Interesting side note about something like that is, Matt Starr does this coaching thing. And I met Matt 10, 11 years ago or so. I met Matt just as he started his coaching business, because Matt taught drum lessons in Los Angeles and was playing drums with a band called Burning Rain, and then he was playing with Ace Frehley, and you could Matt's got an impressive resume. But part of his thing is his story is so parallel to mine, and we've worked with a lot of the same people as well, and so we have that connection. But Matt does these coaching, and one person was putting, I think, a book together, or was doing an interview thing, and he was going to interview 5 drummers. And there's only one drummer I remember. The most popular drummer out of the 5 is Kenny Aronoff. And if you don't know who Kenny is, research him. So Kenny being the most popular of the 5, or the most well-known, probably the busiest drummer, and then 1 or 2 other drummers who were kind of at that level, and then 2 other drummers who were more like intermediate, still have really great resumes, but not as well known. And this person who was going to do this interview thing or whatever reached out to all 5 of them. The person who got back to them the quickest and corresponded back and forth was Kenny Aronoff. So out of the 5, the busiest guy, the biggest name in the whole thing, is the one that was the most accessible to this person that nobody knew. And then the ones who took the longest to get back were the lesser known drummers who claimed, "Oh, I'm too busy for this. I'm too blah blah blah." Really? You're more busy than Kenny Aronoff? I just think it's a mindset thing. And so when I saw this video of Matt talking about his coaching client doing this thing, I thought, just as an experiment on my own, I thought, I'm going to send Kenny Aronoff a message and see if I get a response. So I had been watching Kenny Aronoff's YouTube videos called the Aronoff Sessions, where Kenny is interviewing kind of in a Rick Beato style interview. And there was one with this guitar player, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, which is unfortunate because he was one of the favorite interviews I watched. But anyway, I just messaged Kenny and I said, "Hey Kenny, it's Fred in Boise, Idaho. I'm really enjoying your YouTube video series, the Kenny Aronoff Sessions, and I really liked your video with this guy, and it was inspiring, and I really appreciate what you do. Hope to cross paths someday." Within a half hour later, I got a response from Kenny. "Fred, great to hear from you. Yeah, I hope our paths do cross someday. Thanks for checking it out. That guitar player is just amazing, and thanks for watching. If you ever got any questions, just hit me up." Like, okay. Okay, that was really cool for Kenny Aronoff to respond that way. So I think just reaching out to people shouldn't be a scary situation. We're just people. So, like I said, I have this ideas or things that I want in place to expand my teaching, and it feels a little uncomfortable, but at the same time, it feels a little bit like it's a natural progression of what should be happening. Wanted to expand my recording business, and there's some people that I've been working with recently that have a decent, well-known name, and when that stuff is released, then I can say, this is a thing I did for this person. It's really cool, and now I have this connection with Blair Senta if I maintain it. So, reaching out to Blair occasionally to say, "Hey man, what's up?" It's a good idea. And maybe something somewhere will come along where there's a need, and Blair could go, "Who fits the bill for this is Fred." That's the result of networking. And by the way, these relationships generally take time to develop. I think it's very rare that somebody is recommended out of thin air of just, I heard about this person. Like, it's like being like in the landscape business. uh, you know, you start doing things, and it takes a while to grow that business and to be able to show your work to people. And you can do work for somebody, and then they have a friend that says, "Man, I love this patio. Who did this? Can I get a hold of them? This is great." And then you go and meet with them. I'm thankful that that part of my life is now over. But it was necessary. It was necessary. So yeah, just networking, getting out of your comfort zone, because the more you're out of your comfort zone, the larger your comfort zone becomes. Okay? I hope that makes sense to you fine people who are listening to me. James says, I would think Kenny is conditioned to not ignore any contact because of his session work availability. You are probably right, James. And I think, James, you probably too have watched a lot of his interviews. And he has that energy about him that everybody is important to him. Everybody's important to him, and if you guys out there know Kenny's story, then that makes sense. That makes sense. And I think I may have mentioned this before on my show, but I've mentioned it to other groups of people I've been around. Is I have a student who's like a service manager for a car dealership, and who this place that he works for, it's their policy to respond to every email, phone call, or text, or whatever communication they're using. They have to respond to these people within an hour, because if they don't, their job could be in jeopardy. That's how important the business is to make sure that nobody is missed, and that everybody is important, and everybody's time is valuable. And so he was telling me this, and that caused a little shift in my own business. Is when I get an email from somebody inquiring about drum lessons, to immediately respond to them, not go, I'll get back to them tomorrow, or I'll get back to them next week, because you know what happens tomorrow or next week? They've moved on. Maybe they messaged other drum teachers in town. I don't know. But a lot of times business goes to the first person to respond, the first person that says, you're important to me. So that's how I've been trying to operate my own thing, is like when somebody calls me or somebody texts me or somebody emails me, to get back to them in a quick manner. Because you know what? More likely than not, every person I know has this thing, has one of these. And most of the time, people have it on them or near them. And that's just the way it is. I don't know too many people who have a phone and they go and they put it on their dresser in their room and they ignore it for the next few hours or a day. So everybody's easy to reach. Not everybody's going to respond very quickly. There's friends that I'll text and I won't hear from them for weeks. And I'm like, so then I'll text them again. I'm like, are you stuck on the roof of your house and somebody took the ladder? They're like, oh, sorry, I was busy. You were busy for 3 weeks? You couldn't get back to me? That's ridiculous. Come on. That's oh, what was important 3 weeks ago is no longer important, my friend. No longer important. Let's check up here real quick. Lots of online reviews say usually responds within X amount of time. Yep, that's true too. And Thomas says first impressions are important. Yeah, definitely. So I can't sit here and say that I'm totally without fault, because I still have plenty of things I need to work on. Okay, never want to present myself as like I got it all figured out and I'm perfect. I'm just saying, my student told me this about his responsibilities, as his job is to get back to people quickly, And so that made a huge impression on me because I didn't always respond to people timely. And why? Why not? It's because I'm sitting on the couch staring at the ceiling? I don't know. You know, I wasn't permanently driving my car somewhere. I can't do anything on my phone while I'm driving. Well, you know what? When you're done driving, you can respond to people. Uh, Pretty easy to do. Pretty easy to respond to people. So just respond to people. At least, you know, if somebody asks you a question, well, this is a good example. Is you know, most of my live playing is with Cliff Miller, and Cliff will text me and whoever else is going to be playing in the band. Uh, hey, are you available on this such and such date, whether it's in town or out of town thing? And I could see that text come through, and I don't look at it and go, I don't know if I am or not, or if I want to be. And then I set my phone down and I don't respond to him till the next day or a day after. That's kind of a rude thing to do. I see it come through and I go, oh yeah. And then I check my calendar and make sure that I'm available. And if I am, then I run it past the producer to make sure I'm not missing something. And if I'm available, or if I have to, at the very least, I'll text him back and I'll say, give me a few minutes and I'll find out. At least he knows I'm working on it. And then when I know for sure, I'm like, yep, I'm totally cool with that. Versus texting somebody else, are you available for this thing, and never hear back? No. Do you really have to chase down people that hard to give them work? It's no. I don't want to be that guy, and I'm not going to be that guy. Thomas says people value their time over most things. Yeah, you know, all these things have been said of like time is the most valuable commodity that we have, and it's always fleeting. You never get these moments back. They're just gone. So make the best use of your time. Now I say that, make the best use of your time, and the producer's going to load that ammunition up because I'm going to have a time probably in the next few days where all I want to do is just sit on the couch and watch TV, and she'll probably tell me, "Are you making the best use of your time?" But then I'll come back and tell her, "You're the one that made us binge watch UFO Cowboys." And that is the truth. I am not kidding. We binge watched UFO Cowboys, okay? And it was ridiculous, and it was silly, and it was funny, and I found myself so many times saying, why are we watching this? But we watched them all. And it was fun. It was entertaining, and it was, yeah. So anyway, that's not a plug for you to go watch UFO Cowboys, but if you did, we would have something to talk about when I see you in person, okay? Anyway, your comfort zone. Get out of it. Get out of it and keep making your life better and better and better. I do want to end on this note because I found this person through LinkedIn who has a series of videos that's specifically geared towards how I want to take my teaching business. And like I said, I don't want to give away like all of that because I don't want to say what I want to try to do and then it not come to fruition. I'd rather talk about it once it's actually up and running. So, but anyway, this person I was watching YouTube videos on had said, we base so many of our decisions on our life around our current situation and feeling like it can never be better than what it is and just being accepting of it can't be better than what it is. And so then we don't try to do anything outside of that. Really fast example is I know of this musician who books a lot of shows and does a fair amount of travel, and makes a decent amount of money doing that, this person. And they saw another musician who was much busier, playing way more shows, doing way more travel, and and so the first musician talked to the second one to find out, like, what are you doing? Like, you had got a booking agent and this and that and the other. Uh, like, are you doing well financially? Are you being compensated really well? And to find out that as busy as they are and the cool things they were doing, how much less money or no money they were making than this other musician. And so this other musician thought, well, there's no sense in chasing this down because it's not going to, it's what they're doing is actually worse than what I'm doing. And I thought, well, okay, so that was a dead end there, but what can you do to make your situation better? There's got to be, because musicians are making a living out there doing it. So it's just finding those right people. Why did my screen just go dark? Oh, what? Battery saver is on. I have my computer plugged in, but it's not plugged into the wall. And that's a problem.